And what my specialty is really about assuming that you care about climate change. Raise your hand if you already feel like you kind of know a fair bit about climate change and you see it as a serious problem. Yeah. Any questions there? Any question like you have like an uncle or somebody who says, oh, it's not a problem? Anything that we should address before we kind of take that as an assumption? Any burning questions like what do I do when my Uncle Larry says this or whatever, you know? Feel free to, if it comes to you, feel free to just raise your hand. I start from the point that climate change is a crisis. I often say it's like the house is burning down with my children in it. I have 2 children in their 30s, kind of a wannabe grandma, not yet, but I might maybe someday be one. But even if it wasn't my children, it would be everyone's children. And the world will be a different place. So my belief is that we all, no matter what age we are, young, old, I work with 6-year-olds and 90-year-olds, we all have a role to play. Raise your hand if you think this problem is going to be solved by our president. Oh, okay, I guess maybe not, huh? So that leaves us to get the job done. Raise your hand if you think our governor's going to show us great leadership. Some leadership, but not exactly great leadership. So my talk is really about the leadership that we all can show and how we can show it. And I didn't do a PowerPoint because I thought the groups would be small and I just came out of a smaller room, so this is a little different. But my goal is really to kind of encourage you to do your part and to kind of help aim you, as Marie says, towards kind of the sweet spots. And what we have learned, I've been doing this work intensely for, I've done activist work for a long time, but this climate work for about 15 years. It was clear to us kind of from the beginning that it was going to have to be local governments and working grassroots pressure that got the job done. So that means it's all of us, because the president's not going to do it. Our governor's going to do a little something, maybe, depending on who becomes governor, but let's hold out our hopes for that happening in a big way. So it really has to be about us coming from the ground up. I have a little sheet here, and I think I'll pass it out. I kind of refer to it as the most important piece of paper because this is about what we can do to address the climate crisis. And it's really, there's millions of things we need to do. But we know that electricity is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in Colorado and sort of in locally. When we began this work in Boulder, we worked with our city to do a greenhouse gas inventory, and this was their results, except for when they showed them to us, they didn't put that word there. They just had this graph. So we spent a long time working on efficiency, trying to tug the curve down, and we have great efficiency programs. I'm super happy about that. But it was only when we really pointed out that it was our electricity that was over half of our greenhouse gas emissions, and we needed to decarbonize our electricity, that we began to make progress. Many of you know, and I think except for your name from New York is Sarah. Except for Sarah from New York, I think we're all Xcel customers. Do you get electricity from Xcel?
No, through Colorado Springs Utilities, which I guess part of that is Xcel.
I don't know if they are or not, but certainly. You got a great group in Colorado Springs working on the coal plant issue. Are you involved with that? Sweet. Yeah. So I'm going to focus on Xcel because most of us are Xcel. But if I was in a different part of the state, we would talk about Colorado Springs Utilities, or we talk about Tri-State or whatever. But in all of these Denver metro communities, you can assume that your greenhouse gas inventory is similar to this. Electricity is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions, and we've got to decarbonize it. We've got to decarbonize it quickly because climate change is a crisis. As bad as things are, as hot as things are, as dry as things are, as big and bad as the hurricanes are, and as many of the coral reefs that we're losing and on, we are nowhere near leveling off. So it is a crisis, and we need to stop these emissions as quickly as we can. And the coal plants that this church has a big solar system, as I understand it. But if we were in any other building, the coal plants that are keeping these lights on in every other building that we might be in are just a massive source of carbon dioxide, and we don't need them. Turns out the sun shines a tremendous amount in Colorado. The wind blows a tremendous amount. We have thousands of megawatts of wind and solar projects ready to go, and they're cheaper than operating a coal plant. The data is all up here. I've been doing this a long time. I'm a data geek. If we had 3 hours, I'd walk you through the whole thing. You can be absolutely sure that we have thousands and thousands of megawatts of wind and solar ready to go. Storage is coming along. Even the storage is pretty cost effective now. There is no reason for us to be operating these last coal plants that are on Xcel's system. My stuff is all disorganized from the last thing we did. This little map of Colorado, we have actually achieved, we have gotten quite a few coal plants retired. When we retire a typical coal plant, it's like taking when we retire a small coal plant, it's like taking 150,000 cars off the road. That's a lot. There's no way we can do that in any other way. I think actually my statistics are wrong, but it's like taking a lot of cars off the road. I think I'm under by an order of magnitude. It's like taking 1 million cars off the road. But I'll look it up in a second. The important thing is that we can all work together to get these coal plants retired. It's really hard to get people out of their cars. People are doing solar when they can, but we can't do that fast enough. And even when we put solar on, Xcel doesn't say, oh, gee, Sandra's put solar on her house, so I can turn my coal plant down a little bit. There isn't a connection between what we do on our side of the meter and what Xcel does on their side of the meter. So we have to be really laser focused on what Xcel is doing on their side of the meter, or Colorado Springs Utilities, or whoever it is. And let me get this straight. If we could retire, for example, there's 2 coal plants in Hayden, which is west of Steamboat. Those are kind of our next targets. If we retire those, it's like taking 627,000 cars off the road. There's a coal plant out in Brush, northeast of Denver, about an hour. And again, if we get that retired, it's like taking about 627,000 vehicles off the road. And there's no way any of us could do the work. We can think about our own car, or we can ride bikes, as I do a lot, and all of that. But it's only when we get these coal plants retired. And the way we get these coal plants retired is by having the Arapahoe County commissioners say to Xcel, we don't want you to keep operating your coal plants. We want those megawatt hours to come from the thousands and thousands of megawatts of wind, solar, and storage. This is a sheet. If you're kind of a geek and you want the actual numbers, this is a sheet. And these are, what it tells us is that there's over 50,000 megawatts of wind, solar, and storage projects ready to go in Colorado. They were given as bids to Xcel. We say yes, they're operating in 18 months. Xcel took about 2,000 of those megawatts. 2 out of 50 is the same as 4 out of 100. So that means Xcel left 96% of these bids unbuilt. And the way we get them built is by making sure that Denver stays really strong. There's a team that's worked really hard in Denver to get Denver moving in the right direction. We need to keep them strong because Denver is such a big part of Xcel's load. We definitely need Golden. We don't have Golden yet. There are so many people here that get it, but they haven't gotten their city council to say, we want 100%. And yes, Xcel will work with you on efficiency, but please don't distract us with efficiency because we want to talk about your coal plants. It's not that efficiency isn't good, it's a good thing to do. But again, if we do change out all the light bulbs and do all the things that we can do, it doesn't keep Xcel from operating their coal plants. There isn't that connection. And Xcel wants to keep you thinking about changing your light bulbs instead of them changing their coal plants. And so they'll come forward with a memorandum of understanding that says, let's just work on efficiency together because that's low-hanging fruit. And besides, we, Xcel, will make a profit when we do that. So we really need to keep Denver focused on Xcel and on their coal plants. And when we do that, we are just having an impact. When you add up we also have a big coal plant down in Pueblo. There's 3 units down there. Excel has just agreed to retire 2 of them about 10 years early. That's good. They could have done it earlier. And there's a big one left down there, Comanche 3. It was a $1 billion coal plant, came online in 2010. It's supposed to operate till 2070. And even Olivia will be old, and I won't be here, that's for sure. That's why the Denver piece is so important. Fresh faces in Boulder are so important. Arapahoe County is so important. And we have access to our local officials because we run the campaigns, and we can call them up. We're voters. They're going to talk to us. And we just, on the little green sheet of paper, are a few kind of resources. And we always say, if you're at this conference, you're probably already really busy. But we ask for 15 minutes more a week. And this is sort of what Marie heard a few years ago, and now you can see she spent a lot more than 15 minutes a week. But once you get started, you start to gain your confidence. And as you gain confidence, you start to see how you can have an impact. So to start with, we just ask for 15 minutes a week, and in the first week, you do some research. Find something that you want to talk to somebody about. What do the hurricanes look like? What does it look like when 400,000 acres burn in California? What does it look like when the coral reefs bleach? Just something that you want to share with your elected officials. The second week, you look up your elected official. Maybe you already know one because you run their campaign, but what about the other ones, right? Now, how can you work with them, even if they're in the other party? There's a way to talk to people. Solar allows energy freedom and getting away from monopoly. If you need to talk to an ardent Republican, contact me. We're making really good progress at working with some very right-wing folks. There's a way to do it. There are things to be said. It's based around they don't like monopolies any more than we do. So, and it doesn't matter if you fail. Just do it again. People in the other room, I've been doing this for 15 years, and 97% of that time I've failed. But we've also succeeded, right? And so that's the progress that you just have to keep going and going and going. So getting your community to commit to high level of renewable energy is good. That may be a bigger step than you do. I put my name on these green sheets. I'm happy to work with anybody. If you're getting ready to call your city council person or your state legislator, whoever you're going to call, your county commissioners, but you're kind of feeling nervous, feel free to reach out to me first. I'm happy to talk you through it. We'll come up with a couple of talking points. I'll plump you up. You'll go out in the ring and you'll do your piece, and then you go, oh, it was okay. You know, we just sat and had coffee and it went fine. Or I went fine, but I wish I'd done this. I'm like, great, that's just what we're about. It's about learning how to be active and effective citizens at a time when our planet is in crisis, as well as our country, right? And so each of us are the ones that have to get it done. On the little green sheet, I've just said the key thing is to make sure that if I can help you in some way, please just be persistent. I'm a volunteer. I have another job. I already spend 30 or 40 hours a week on climate on top of a regular job. So I'm very happy to do it because I really want to get Arapahoe County, and I want to strengthen Denver. We got to keep Denver strong. The team that's done it, the wind solar team that's done it, has done a great job, but backsliding is a distinct concern. And Golden, I'm just so would like to have Golden organized and working this thing the right way, right? Because, and I know you're already busy if you're already running a campaign, but sweet. There's so many people in Golden, we just don't have them kind of pointed in the right direction yet. So I always say it's great to come and watch PowerPoints and everything, PowerPoints and eat cheese cubes or whatever, but you know, that's not actually enough. You actually have to go and leave here and talk to people. I always say talking to the shower head doesn't work, you know, that doesn't count. It's a good practice. It's fine to talk to the shower head, like, but then you actually have to go make the calls, look up the phone numbers, set up coffee with somebody, and begin the conversation. Now, there's a lot more to be said about that conversation. That's why I put my contact information here. If you kind of get past, like, okay, I'm really concerned about climate change and I really want cleaner electricity, and I want more charging stations for electric vehicles, or whatever you decide as your talking points are, and then you're like, well, what do I say next? Well, feel free to call me, right? Because everybody's at a different stage. I've worked with hundreds of people over the years, all through the United States. Somewhere we have our our map of places we've worked. I and the team of volunteers I work with, this is actually outdated. There's a lot more blue on here. All the blue states are places we've worked with citizens and gotten them activated. And we do all this on a shoestring budget. So, and we've worked with communities all over Colorado. And again, it's outdated. There's many more on there. So this is what we do. This is what leads to change. And there's a lot of detail here, but I don't kind of want your eyes to glaze over before I put in a little. How many are familiar with Proposition 112? Thank you. Please help us spread the word. You know, millions of dollars are going into it. One thing that the industry has done is some really serious scare tactics around, oh, if we have 2,500 foot setbacks, that's the end of the oil and gas industry in Colorado. And that's so not true. The laterals, the horizontal wells, can easily go 10,000 feet. So 4 times the distance of the setback. This is just about not doing this in the middle of neighborhoods. If you haven't been north of Denver, I encourage you to just take a Sunday afternoon or whatever and go drive up there and see. Kind of looks innocent because they're just these kind of brown things and brown walls and, you know, some drill things. But it's all leaking methane like crazy. Benzene, ethyl benzene. These are toxins. You might have seen the thing on the TV about the mom who had her 6-year-old boy tested. 85, he's in the 85th percentile for benzene in his blood. Benzene's a carcinogen, and he's, I think, 6. They have 112 wells around, fracking operations around, something like that, around them. So we really need help on this. We need you talking to your friends and neighbors. Colorado Rising, they make it very easy to just go on there and say you're ready to volunteer. You can make phone calls from your home. You can knock on doors. We need to get the word out that, you know, I would like to move beyond fossil fuels, but to the extent we need natural gas, then we can continue to do it, but you don't need to do it in people's neighborhoods. So these are safe setbacks. There's no real safe distance, but at least the research says once you get about a half mile away, your risks go down. Like I live several miles from it, and I still feel it every morning when I wake up with headaches and nausea and all this stuff. But so it's yes on 112 and no on 74. Do I have that number right? 74. Somebody want to confirm that? So it's the takings one. And it's sort of the oil and gas industry. Like if you do anything to regulate us, we can sue you because you've made my property values go down. And so it'll just completely destroy our efforts to protect health in the environment. So yes on 112, no on 74. So I've talked for quite a while. There's a lot more to be said, lots of data here, but I think I maybe will take just a few questions. You've all been kind of listening here for a while this morning. So are there any questions or anything like, are you clear about what needs to be done is, maybe I got interrupted here. The first 15 minutes you do some research. The second 15 minutes, the second week you spend 15 minutes, you look up an elected official from your area. Then you reach out to them in the third week. Now, obviously, you could do all of this in 1 hour and be done with it. But if 15 minutes is all you have, and if you don't have 15 minutes, then don't tell me you actually care about the planet or the future, because I don't care. We can all give up 15 minutes of sleep. And if you do this 1 week at a time, I've got to do my 15 minutes this week. You look up your official, you contact them. If they don't get back, you contact them again. And you keep doing that until you get to have coffee. You're going to soon realize that there's no reason to wait another week before I resend the email. I can resend it, 2 or 3 days later. You can accelerate this process. And then you just kind of repeat the process again. If you're not quite sure what to do next, that's why my contact information is there. We've worked with people all over the state and helped get Colorado Springs going many years ago, Pueblo going, lots and lots of people all over Colorado as elsewhere. Just kind of helping them think about what are the next steps in my role in helping to address the defining issue of our time, which for me is climate change, and with complete respect for all the economic justice issues and social justice issues that we struggle with now. So any questions, anything? If you want to see these bids, I would love to walk you through them because they're really stunning, but it's quite a few numbers, and I know you're probably getting ready for lunch. So any questions, anything? Yes?
Would you say our focus should be on city council representatives or county commissioners or all?
All of the above, right? Just start somewhere and keep going. I mean, you already know your council person pretty well, right? I would start there and I would ask, is it a him or her? Him. I would ask him, who should you talk to next? Right. Yeah. And so on the little green sheet, I tried to make it really simple because, you know, this is a big, complicated problem, but we all have a very important role to play. You're hoping your community will go to a Ready for 100 type commitment. Could be by 2025, like Netherlands did, or 2030, or 2035. It doesn't kind of matter. The important thing is that you're having the conversations. Yes?
So golden isn't on it at all?
Not that I know of. Yeah. You've got amazing activists here. You've got this church, which is filled with amazing activists. I've tried time and again to get them together and get them kind of aimed right. I mean, it's great to keep holding talks and having PowerPoints and eating pizza or whatever you eat, but you actually have to go talk to the people who make the decisions. And the shower head is good practice, but keep going. So I may be wrong, but the last I checked, Golden had not done a Ready for 100. And it can be some variation, because they always like to make it their own, you know, in some way. Yes, that's okay. The important thing is that you're going for clean energy, and you keep, while you're happy to talk about what happens on our side of the meter, efficiency and things like that, you want your community keeping a lot of pressure on Excel about what happens on their side of the meter, like what's with the coal plants. Why do we have coal trains running through Denver today? What is that about? Like, how can we possibly be doing that? On the little sheet, you'll also see a mention of the Colorado Communities for Climate Action, CC4CA. I think Denver and Boulder are already part of that. I think Denver is. I'm not sure about Golden. If your community is not already part of Colorado Communities for Climate Action, that's a really important ask, because that's where the communities from all over the state are getting together, and then they're pushing on their legislators and they're pushing on their federal representatives around things. And it's very powerful, because sometimes it's good to have the folks from Denver, but sometimes it's good to have the folks from Grand Junction carry the message. And this coalition is becoming quite effective and powerful, and it's important that your community be part of it. And if all of that has been achieved and you now have good relationships with 2/3 of your city council people, and you just figure the other third is like, maybe it's not worth it, and you don't know what to do next, that's when you can call me. You can call me every step of the way. Email me, call me, text me. And because there's always another strategy. I've been at this, as I say, intensely for 15 years, and I'm going to be leaving soon because I have so much work to do at home in order to get us to the next step at the local, state, and national level. So when the work will be done when this country's emissions are as close to zero as we can possibly get them. I won't be here when that work is done. I hope to be here, but you know, we got a lot of work to do. Yes. And
Question and a recommendation. My question has to do with that we get these flyers in with the Excel bill that say, you know, if you pay an extra, I think it's $15 a month, they'll give you this.
yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for doing the work.
What do you?
I'm sorry, the Excel says if you pay $15 a month, then you'll get more solar and everything. I think it's a fine thing to do. You can either do it with wind or solar. And I think it's a fine thing to do. It's this we have to act on this problem at a scale that matches the problem. And while it's good to do solar if you can, it's even okay to do wind source. That's kind of a dorky program that you're just retiring RECs that were generated a long time ago. It's okay to do, but it's not nearly enough. We need to get our communities on board. If we do this one house at a time or even one business at a time, you know, the planet will be completely toasted by the time we get there. So we've got to work at a systemic level. It's great to do what you can on your individual level, but it's really much more powerful to have to organize in your community and to work, in your case, on your Arapahoe County commissioners. It'll take you a while, but
The issue with them charging more to use something they should be maybe utilizing in the first place.
yeah, exactly. And the people that know me know that I've spent a lot of time over the last 15 years at the Public Utilities Commission. I know a lot about it. I know all the dockets and this, that, and the other thing. Yes, and the short conclusion is that I don't see much hope for the Colorado Public Utilities Commission actually ever holding Xcel accountable in a serious way. So that's why the sweet spot is really the work we do with the Denver City Council and all of that, Denver County Commissioners, and with Arapahoe County Commissioners and Golden and Lakewood and Littleton and on, because when those local officials start to all talk with the same voice, that's when we get the breakthroughs. Like we've just gotten this big breakthrough with Xcel, retiring 2 coal plants, bringing on about 2,000 megawatts of wind and solar and storage. We have one of the country's largest utilities going above 50% renewable energy, and they're doing it quote unquote voluntarily. Now, they're doing it voluntarily because Boulder and a whole lot of other communities have said, this is what we want. If you keep burning coal, we don't want your product. And it took us 10 years to get through their thick skulls, but we're through it, and they get it. They get it now that their communities don't want this. But these last 3 big coal plants, it's actually 4 plants, 3 sites, are going to be really hard. And getting Arapahoe County and keeping Denver strong and getting Golden and getting Littleton and Lakewood and Wheat Ridge and Arvada and every other place is going to be really key to getting this done. So don't worry about failures. The important point is that you just get up, lick your wounds, go have a cup of tea, do whatever you do, take a walk, watch some dorky TV, do whatever you do some knitting, and get back up and do it again. Because people will see you doing it. When I began, I was all alone. I had 6 people on my email list. 3 people never came. 2 people mostly never came. It was me and an 83-year-old retired electrical engineer named Jack Twombly. And we would meet month after month. And I'd say, Jack, am I crazy for caring about climate change? He said, no, Leslie, it's really serious. Keep going. Jack just died about a year ago. But so it was basically me and a retired guy who was amazing but couldn't do much. So I was all alone. And at this point now, there's thousands and thousands of people that are kind of continuing the work. So don't be worried about being alone. Don't be worried about failure. Just keep doing it. Do it respectfully, of course. But the facts are with us. The facts on climate change are with us, and the facts on clean energy being lower cost than fossil fuels are absolutely with us. That's the piece I can walk you through if we set up a half-hour phone conversation. I'll send you the document. You'll be on your phone. I'll be on my phone. I'll say, look here, wind under 2 cents a kilowatt hour. Solar under 3 cents a kilowatt hour. Coal is 3 cents a kilowatt hour and above. Natural gas above that, typically. So the facts are absolutely with us. We just have to keep saying them over and over and over again until I'm super thrilled about what Xcel is doing, although I'm not happy about the natural gas they're putting on their system, which makes no sense whatsoever. But I'm super thrilled that they are voluntarily moving above 50% renewable energy. That, you don't want to know how much work that's been, not just obviously by me, but by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people for years and years and years.
Recommendation was something I do. I keep a large postcard on my desk, and I have all my elected numbers and addresses on it. Both
Excellent.
Colorado and
Nash.
there, in DC.
Yep.
And I call them almost every week. But it's right there, it's handy, and I recommend.
Great recommendation.
Keeps happening.
Yeah, and I.
Change it every couple of years.
Right. I keep all my city council people. I mean, they're all on my phone, but it's just kind of like easier to be and also it's a reminder. Yeah, absolutely. They are people. You're just building a relationship with them. You're helping them understand information. They're asked to think about all these different things. You're bringing them information about climate change, clean energy.
Times where I've called my state senator, and he'll actually answer the phone sometimes. And he'll say, well, I don't even know about that bill yet. Let me read it. And he'll pull it up and read it while I'm on the line with him, and we'll discuss it. And, I've educated him. And
That's wonderful.
so,
Who is your state legislator?
Kagan.
Oh, very good. Excellent. Thank you for doing that. That's really, really helpful stuff. And you're not, I mean, maybe you're a super millionaire and you were able to give millions of dollars to their campaign. Oh, really not?
If there's any probably at this conference.
I'm being sarcastic, of course. My point is that Even though you weren't able to give him tens of thousands of dollars for his campaign, you have a relationship with him and he respects you. And you may disagree at times, but he knows that you're solid and you're going to bring him solid information. And that's exactly the kind of relationship we're working to build with every U.S. city council or county commissioner or state legislator, all of the above, given that just start somewhere. And, you know, you're not going to do it in the next month. Hopefully you make yourself a plan. Okay, my goal is to have one relationship at the end of this month. A really personal, strong, personal, you know, in a month you can't be like bosom buddies, but you can have a really good connection where they will come to know you and respect you and to appreciate that you're bringing them solid information. You're a concerned citizen. You're not a crazy person. You just want our country to move faster. And that's pretty much what you've done, right, Sandra? And hold them accountable and be polite. Always be polite. But build that relationship. And then you'll see, oh, I made one relationship in a month. Maybe I could do 2 relationships in the next month. And if you do that for a few months, pretty soon you're going to have 4, 5, 6 relationships. And then you'll see how much easier it is. And then you'll just keep going. But maintain those relationships. And if we all do that, right, then we shift things on everything. Xcel's coal plants, on fracking, on transportation, on everything, yeah.
I'm going to be sharing this with Loretto, and I'm just trying to make sure I understand. You say you're so excited about Xcel going over 50% renewable. When and how are they doing that? Have they already done that?
No, they have made a plan and it's been approved. Thanks so much, Steve. They've made a plan and that plan has been approved by the Utilities Commission and it'll be executed between now and about 2023. So by I think it's about 2023 or mid-20s, they'll be above 50% renewable energy. I'm super happy about that. They should be going much faster. They should not leave 96% of the wind and solar bids they received on the table. The only planet that we know of that supports life is frying.
Right, I got that. And then when you talked about the natural gas, that's not included in, they don't call that a renewable approach, do they?
No, but they called it part of the Colorado Energy Plan. And they got a bunch of environmentalists, including the Sierra Club. That's why I've had the big dust up with the Sierra Club, because the Sierra Club supported the 380 odd megawatts of natural gas going on Xcel's system in 2022. That is not clean. Not only is it not clean, it's likely to become stranded because it's going to be undercut with solar and storage costs. And importantly, it's clogging up the system so that we go through the next planning process for Xcel. They'll say, well, we don't really need any wind and solar. We're full. We just put 383 megawatts of natural gas turbines, and our load is pretty flat, so we don't really have any need. And so once again, it puts them in the driver's seat where we're all going, but look at this wind, it's like 1.1 or whatever it's going to be cents a kilowatt hour, and we got solar at 2 cents a kilowatt hour. You can do more and it can be cheaper. And they go, well, we don't really need any. And they do that. This is what we just did. It's just the dynamic we just went through down at the Utilities Commission, where for a year and a half they go, we're full. We don't really need any of that wind and solar. We're done.
It's all about us. It's all about our utilities.
And then Xcel came and said, well, we'll retire 2 coal plants as long as you give us this and this and this and this and this. And a whole bunch of environmentalists went, oh, as long as you retire coal plants, we'll give you that and that and that and that, including 380 megawatts gas turbines. And so we're setting up the same dynamic for this next round of resource planning. And that's why I'm so frustrated with Sierra Club, because they hadn't signed the agreement. A lot of people signed the agreement a year earlier. Sierra Club hadn't. They were in a position they could have pushed back. They didn't. An attorney from San Francisco made the decision that this was the right thing for us. And I've had the audacity to disagree. As it turns out, haven't had the audacity before. So, do you have any questions? No. And can I ask what you do in Boulder?
I'm a volunteer for the ActivateCO.
Oh.
I'm a computer programmer.
Oh.
My husband is an air rocket on the city council.
Oh, and what's your last name?
Anderson.
Oh, Sherry Rose Anderson. Oh, and you volunteer with the NAACP. Thank you so much. That's so wonderful, and thanks for showing up for this. So, and you've got kids, I know. So, thank you. Aaron is really a remarkable guy. I guess I probably don't have to tell you that. Yeah, he's been, it's so hard to be on Boulder City Council. So bless you for putting up with it, because I always say being president is the worst. And after that, being on Boulder City Council is the next worst job in politics, because it's just relentless, right? And people are so intense. And there's no easy solution to anything that they have. So bless you for, that's amazing. Thank you. And you probably have your hands full, but would love your help in whatever way you can do. I think we're just trying to honor what Excel's doing, but accelerate it. It's our kids' planet, right? And it isn't looking pretty. I trust you have some sense of that. So, Chuck, you got any questions or? No. I'd love to show you some of this Excel data, Chuck, if you have a minute afterwards. Kind of what they're doing and what we could have done. The analysis. It's pretty geeky number stuff, but I would love to show you because you're a geeky numbers guy. So. So yeah, thank you so much. Trying to get your community to either get ready for 100 or stay strong on ready for 100. And the Loretta Sisters can be really helpful, right? When you show up, it really has an impact on the audience, on Mayor Hancock, on everyone, Libby. So thank you so much for spending the time to kind of get this. As you know, I'm available. Just be persistent if I miss an email from you. Because all these other communities are important. Denver is the big kahunga, right? And the Loretta Sisters can play just a huge role in that, right? And then Arapahoe County is really key because, and we work with a lot of people out of Centennial and places like that. And when we get voices from Arapahoe County, from Centennial, from Aurora, it has a huge impact at the legislature, right? So we really appreciate you being here, Sandy, and getting all that work done. So, and anybody that wants to geek out on the numbers, I'm going to do a little numbers thing. We're going to be looking at these kind of spreadsheety things. There's amazing stories here. I might take 1 minute to just talk about discount rate, because we have to have a lot of people understanding discount rate, and you may not understand it, but you'll go, there's something about discount rate that I'm supposed to understand. I wonder if my box came. Aha. Woo, I almost fell off. When Excel's making, this won't take very long, and I appreciate your attention. When Excel's making decisions about, should we build more renewable energy or should we keep burning natural gas and things like that? I want to use my hands. Are you still recording me? Oh, okay. Okay, so when you do wind and solar, you're putting a lot of money up front, and there's no fuel costs, right? Fuel costs are zero for the entire time of the project, and your maintenance costs are pretty little. On the other hand, when you build something like, or buy, in this case, natural gas turbines, you've got an upfront expenditure, but then you also have to buy the fuel, right? So when Excel's making those decisions between something that has a lot of upfront costs and very low ongoing costs versus something that has some upfront costs and then significant ongoing costs, they have to compare those two things, and they want to get all those numbers into kind of a common base. So they do something called they discount future costs back to the present using a discount rate. And the short version of this is that a high discount rate favors fossil fuels and a low discount rate favors renewable energy. And my guy has gone, so now I get to put my mic down. And so Excel uses a discount rate of about 7%. And that means they make their future fossil fuel costs look like a small fraction of what they're going to be. They often do these plans for 4 decades. And so fuel costs that are going to happen 40 years from now, when Olivia is 51, little lagoons here. They take those fuel costs, because they're looking at 4 decades, just who can do it first place at this point in time, because we now are looking much more insight. And they're going to discount them back for 4 decades. And when you use 7%, you're going to cut those fuel costs in half for every decade that you discount them, that you backtrack them to the present. So future fossil fuel costs 4 decades from now will be discounted to a half, a quarter, an eighth, a 16th. So they're going to look at this fossil fuel option and say, we don't need to worry about future fuel costs because they come out in our model as a small fraction of what they're actually going to be.
That sounds frightening.
It's really darn stupid. It goes back to last century when your only choices, if you were a utility, you could build coal, you could build natural gas, or you could build nuclear. You're all going to have different expenditures over different time, upfront capital, maintenance, and fuel, and it's a whole bunch of apples and oranges. They would take all of those and discount them all at the utility's weighted average cost of capital around 7%. It may or may not have been a good idea last century, but it's clearly a really crappy idea at this point, because we have resources and we know precisely whether Libya will pay for them 4 decades from now, and that's zero for the fuel, right? So to take these fossil fuel resources and make their fuel costs look really little, it's not exactly fraudulent, because the commission is like, I don't really understand discount rate, so whatever Excel does is just fine with me. I think that's what I take, my imitation of the commission. It really makes no sense at this point in time, which is why whenever I can slip in a little discount rate discussion, I do. Because we've got to have people saying it makes no sense to discount future fuel costs. And we got the Loretta sisters to show up at the commission and say, guys and women, this makes no sense, and we're nuns, and we're associated with nuns. Oh my gosh, we might get it done. Yeah, sure.
So Leslie, it does make sense to discount future costs in the sense that $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow, because $1 today can be invested. However, in this very low interest rate environment, if you invest $1 today, you're not making that much money on it. And so I guess my question is, how do they justify a 7% discount rate in this low interest rate environment that we're in?
The way they just, it's an excellent question, Chuck, and I'll back it up in a little bit. But the short answer to your question is the way they justify it is, to paraphrase, we don't really understand discount rates, so we're going to use Excel's weighted average cost as the discount rate. It's not a rational environment.
But Excel must have some justification for choosing 7% versus 3% versus 4%, right?
Good question. The 7% is actually 6.78, but I call it 7. Is their weighted average cost of capital. That comes out of their rate cases, where we have a long discussion about how much their debt costs and how much return they should get on their equity. They get over 9% return on their equity, that is fraudulent, because they have no risk at this point. The commission has shown no willingness to hold them accountable for their investment decision. We're going to just own it all. So 9% implies you're taking some risk, right? Because most of us are not earning 9%. But when you take 9% on equity and let's call it 4% on debt, and your capital structure, and you do the math, you come out at, in this case, 6.78%. And even Ron Binns had no idea what was going on, so it was just like, we'll just do what we've always done, which is the discount. We fought a huge battle a few years ago. We got the commission to require sensitivity studies at 3% and 3% and 0%. And as it turns out, when you do your comparison of fossil fuels versus renewables, and you lower the discount rate, under Excel's analysis with their weighted average cost of capital, you save this much. But when you do the analysis at a discount rate of 3%, you save this much. And you do it at 0%, you're saving $1 billion. Now, what's the right discount rate? Nobody knows what the right discount rate, because you're earning, what you're earning is different than what I'm earning, which is different than what Olivia's earning, and Olivia was here a while ago. There's no right discount rate, but to me, 7% is the wrong one, because I'm certainly not putting money away and earning 7% so my kids can pay the fossil fuel costs on the gas turbines that Excel is about to install. So, but we try to get them to do sensitivity runs. We got them to do sensitivity runs. They show exactly what we thought they were going to do, which is what I'd love to show you. But nobody on the staff really understands it. So they're buried there in Appendix E, but nobody's paying attention, which is why I talk about discount rate whenever I can. Because we just have to have more and more people saying it doesn't make sense to discount future fuel costs at Excel's weighted average cost of capital. Fuel is not capital, and Excel doesn't pay for it. So there's no reason to use Excel's weighted average cost of capital to discount fuel costs that your kids and my kids and everybody else's kids will be paying in 2035 or 2045. They're going to pay the real cost, not some discount cost. We should do the modeling in a way that reflects that. We did get these sensitivity runs. I'm super happy about that. That was 9 years worth of work on them. And in this case, it was almost all me because not that many people really get discount rate. And I don't get it. I only get it because Andy Bardwell taught me about it a long time ago, and then I redid the analysis. I'm like, oh my God, it really is a big deal. So not that many people, but it was 9 years worth of work on my part. We've got the commission doing it, but they don't pay attention to it, so we need more people to help them pay attention. I'm going to take with you now. I'll get you checked.
What if they ran their discount rate calculations but left off fuel costs? Wouldn't that be an intelligent model to compare something that takes fuel with something that doesn't take fuel, especially since Excel isn't the one that buys the fuel in the future? If I'm following you correctly?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What Libby asked is, well, we could discount capital at the weighted average cost of capital, but fuel should be at something else. I think that was our first argument. Excel made a great big smoke cloud about we just really can't do that, which is ridiculous because you're doing it in spreadsheets and computers and it takes you that long, right? You tell them to do it. But what we've gotten the commission to do is just allow everything to be bundled. And since future costs are dominated by fuel, it has the same effect. I am not neither a mathematician or an economist. I'm reasonably good at math, but exactly how it should be done, Libby, is an excellent question. At this point, I've got the commission at least willing to take the whole thing and discount the whole thing, because that's what Excel said we should do, and then they said we shouldn't do that either, and we won on a big fight over that. So now the commission's doing that. I'm going to leave it at that for now, but your point is extremely well taken. But the fundamental concept is we should not be comparing renewables that have no fuel costs and fossil fuels that do have fuel costs, and then taking those future fuel costs and shrinking them down and making them look really small. And we've done the analysis. I'll just show you. Excel's basic plan is to take $62 billion worth of fuel over the next 40 years and send it up the smoke stack to create carbon dioxide. When they discounted it their weighted average cost of capital, it shows up as $14 billion. That's still a lot of money, but in a way you're shrinking those fuel costs and making them look a lot smaller than they're going to be. So when you do renewables, you make their savings look a lot smaller too, because you're not looking at this fuel that we're going to have to pay. So after 9 months of fighting back in 2015 or 16, I think it was 16, 9 months of legal wrangling down at the commission, I got the spreadsheets, I redid all of that analysis and did it at, I got them so late I had to do it myself, but it's right. And this is the savings at Excel's weighted average cost of capital. And as we go to 5, 3, 1, and 0%, we can see that the savings go up. These are all alternatives that have increasing amounts of renewable energy. And when you don't discount it, your savings go above $1 billion. So that whole story about Excel, we're going to save you $200 million, that's $200 million at a high discount rate. They're going to save us hundreds of millions. And at an undiscounted rate, the savings will be above $1 billion, and that's what's in these sensitivity tables that I gave a copy to Chuck to. So that's the discount rate story. I really appreciate you listening. You all have been really great audience. It's really important that we stop doing this to our kids and everything else, right? So thank you, and I expect there's lunch or something.
Yeah, there's lunch at that point now.
Yeah. And anybody that wants wants to kind of geek out on the numbers, I'll stay for a few minutes because the numbers are actually really, that's important. But you all are great. You've got my contact information. Just be persistent. I'd love to help. I would love to get Arapahoe. That would be huge. And the Loretta sisters are huge. And you have access to a certain person. And that is huge. Aaron's been great, so it's not like he needs a lot of work. But it never hurts to have your spouse kind of reinforcing these concepts, so thank you.